I feel like I'm constantly cleaning hair off my bathroom floor. At least my Swiffer Sweeper makes it easy. Sweeper heavy-duty dry cloths have ultra-thick pads to trap and lock hairs, like a hair magnet. And when I'm finished cleaning up my hair, Sweeper takes care of his too. Now the hair is gone, all thanks to Swiffer. Try Swiffer Sweeper heavy-duty dry cloths. I promise you'll love them or your money back. And also try Swiffer Sweeper Wet to make quick work of tough, sticky messes.
At Charmin, we heard you shouldn't talk about going to the bathroom in public, so we decided to sing about it.
When you roll a Charmin ultra soft on the party, this is supposed to roll it back, everybody. Roll it back. Charmin's irresistibly soft and hella nice. The grip is always stocked. It's our party vice. Please, so our chicks feel fast. So worth it. Everybody wanna touch the sky.
Charmin Ultra Soft is irresistibly soft and more absorbent, so you can use less. Enjoy the go with Charmin.
Weather and Ag in Focus on WDAY Radio.
Bomb cyclone. What's a bomb cyclone? I don't even know what to do. If it was a snowstorm or a blizzard, I would know what to do. What do I do in a bomb cyclone? Oh my God. First it was polar vortex, then it was bombogenesis, then bomb cyclone. Now the new one is thunder snow. What the hell is thunder snow? What do I do during a thunder snow?
Yeah, what do you do during a thunder
snow? I don't hear the thunder.
Where's the thunder? Well, where's the snow? Can we mix some wind in there too? Well, Iowa, Illinois, say yes. I think we can.
Man, I'm telling you,
they seem scared.
Yeah,
wow.
Someone told them there's a vote going on or something. They're like, "Hold my beer, let me shut the state down."
Yeah, right. Wait, we got a primary. We better shut the state down.
Someone say Trump's gonna be here.
Oh man, it is cold, and it's only going to intensify as. I think you could call it a bomb cyclone by the time this is done, because this is rapidly intensifying area of low pressure that's riding towards Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
Now, areas just northwest of Chicago just absolutely getting hammered with snow and wind.
Need a bigger boat.
Yeah, and the wind. This storm is going to be so big, it's going to wrap up in. This is what's responsible for our wind, and this is wrapping up into the Great Lakes. So. I'll tell you what, it's between the Arctic high moving down from Canada and this area of low pressure intensifying, our winds increase, and we're getting snow along with it.
Oh, my God! Yeah. Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm. What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure? Stay calm! Wait. Everybody calm down!
So if you... Now, Bridgette, you're not traveling anywhere tomorrow? Or actually, I should just say, where are you traveling to tomorrow?
Well, I wasn't planning on traveling, so this one you can't pin on me.
Okay.
This time.
What are you traveling?
Probably later this evening towards Fargo. And then next week, I will definitely be in and out of Fargo a couple of times and was considering Dickinson. Why?
Well, it's just cold. Really, not a lot of snow.
Okay.
Actually. But in our area, as we head into tomorrow, we're going to see snow tomorrow. Could pick up a couple of inches, which normally a couple of inches is not a big deal. But when you have 30 to 35 mile an hour winds blowing a couple inches of snow on the ground around, we're probably going to have some reduced visibility around the FM area. In fact, actually throughout much of the state. A light snow event going to blanket a lot of the state over the next 24 hours. So, unfortunately, travel conditions probably going downhill over the weekend, along with dangerous wind chills of 30 to 40 below. Yeah.
Ooh.
So the fact that y'all blame my travel schedule on our winters has rubbed off. I was on a phone call yesterday with a friend, and she's like, "So, how was your trip to Manitoba? How was the weather?" I said, "Oh, it started to snow as I was leaving." She said, "They're in a blizzard warning now because you were there." So it's...
She's
Sorry,
not
Canada.
she's not
That's my
wrong.
Oh man. What are the odds you think that we see in spots, the Valley, Western Minnesota, blizzard warnings being issued for tomorrow?
I'd say it's probably going to be something like they had north of Grand Forks the other day.
Like localized areas.
Just local ground blizzard conditions. It wouldn't surprise me in the least. Yeah, that's why travel's just it's not going to be the best on Saturday. Yeah, not going to be the best. Could be worse.
This is going to be awesome.
It could be. Let's play out a hypothetical. You like my hypotheticals when it comes to weather. Bridgette, you love them. It could be.
I'm all over them.
It could be like 30 below zero with wind chills at 80 below zero.
That's not
The wind
happening.
could be 40 to 60 miles per hour. And instead of 1 to 2 inches of snow, we could have 1 to 2 feet of powder.
And then you
Wouldn't
woke up.
that be cool?
No, that would not be cool. That would not be cool.
Am I the only extremist?
You're a
out here?
masochist, is what you are. I don't even
Extremist.
think. I don't even think extremist covers it.
It's just it's all about the experience, really. Just how
Well-
bad could it get?
I'll tell you what.
How bad could it get?
Yeah, stand outside in a Speedo when that is going on. We're going to lock all available doors into the building, and then you tell us how you like it.
I'm building an igloo.
Do you two not know about Bermuda shorts? All you ever talk about are Speedos. And I got to let you know there's other options. I just want to share that.
Well, yeah, the Speedos are cooler.
It's
hot outside.
Definitely chilly. Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, so things you all should know. Here you go, a couple of them. First of all, next week, Tuesday, Clay County is having their Crop Improvement Day over at Dilworth. Starts at 8:30. If folks are curious about the agenda, want to know what's going on there, who the sponsors are, drop me an email, ag@flagfamily.com. I'll fill you in on those details because you want to be aware of them. 2, all of this cold weather, it makes me happy in one way, and that is because we are building ice for Agronomy on Ice, which will be February 7th at Devil's Lake. That's coming right along. And 3, there's one more big deal that's coming up next week, Tuesday, January 16th, and that is our guest is not to take away from the guest we'll have today, but next week on Tuesday, we will have Max Armstrong, who is a farm broadcaster retired from WGN in Chicago. He's a good friend of mine, and Max agreed to join us on air next Tuesday. Dean was sort of excited to see that.
I know Justin probably doesn't recognize the name, but I grew up watching him, and I did a short stint at WGN TV working with Skilling back in the day, and I believe I ran into Max in the hallway. And this has been, I remember I ran into Jack Brickhouse, who he's long past now, but famous broadcaster for the Cubs.
Oh.
And the famous people were always in and out of there. So I believe I met him once years and years ago. Great broadcaster. Oh, man. Legendary.
You will recognize his voice.
Oh,
Legendary. He was U.S. News and Farm Report with Orion Samuelson when I was a kid growing up. So for those of you who remember those names, Orion Samuelson, Max Armstrong, they're right up there with Paul Harvey for a lot of us.
Yeah. Oh, easily.
That's who we always listened to. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were great voices.
Yeah.
So many good things.
Guess what just came across my monitor here?
Winter weather advisory?
Well, no, it's not that significant or anything. Hey, you want to be a part of our program today? Feel free to give us a call on the Red Wing Shoes phone line. Oh, no. That's 701-293-9000. Emails are weather or ag at flagfamily.com. Comment boxes on Facebook and YouTube Live, and as well, yes, the sponsorless Bridgette's personal cell phone. Still taking applications for that.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of technology going on here. Woo!
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on. We're all over the place. Anyways, we're going to head over to the Red Wing Shoes phone line because we got a caller on the line right now.
Who is it?
It's Mystery Person.
Oh, boy.
Hi, John. How are you doing?
Yeah, no mystery there, is there?
What's going on today?
Eggmaster B,
yep.
I'm very proud of you for mentioning the great Orion Samuelson. Because I'm old enough that he's the one who taught me a respect for agriculture.
So my one touch of fame as a high school kid was walking out of National FFA Convention in Kansas City, Missouri while I was in high school. and Orion Samuelson and Max Armstrong were outside doing a television segment, and they stopped our group and they said, would one of you stand here so we can look at get like the back of your jacket to use as we go to commercial? And I got to stand there and be the back of the jacket that they got to see going to commercial. So there's my one big claim to fame.
So on the plus side,
very cool.
On the plus side, the cold weather, okay, when you're me, you're falling on your keister about 10% of the time now because the ice is no longer as slippery as it was when it was 28 degrees out. The ice fishermen are falling into the drink less often now, which is a great thing. And Bridgette's heading to Dickinson, so odds are it probably won't even snow tonight. Oh, wait, that's right. Damn it, she's coming back to Fargo. I better get the snowplow warmed up.
You probably should. Yep, probably a really good idea.
And I've determined that from having to deal with Justin and Dean, that I'm definitely all on board with corn to make whiskey, because listening to those two just makes me want to drink more.
Oh boy.
You guys have a great weekend.
Right.
I'm going to go out and drive uphill both ways into the wind.
Have fun, John.
Good luck, John. Stay safe out there. Stay warm, bud.
It's T-shirt weather. Just keep that in mind.
Indeed.
American Ag Network. It's the American Ag Network.
Yeah,
time,
but what do we got coming up on the show today? Before we do that, everyone wants to know, and I'm here talking more, not telling them.
We got lots. First of all, we'll always have headlines to bring up, but probably the most important thing is our guest today, and that's Dr. Emily Fox. She's from the Ashely Vet Clinic. She is a fan favorite. We love when Emily comes on and talks.
Indeed.
And some of the things we wanted to kick off with her. It got cold. What are we going to do for beef cattle or dairy cattle or any livestock to keep them warm? We know that we talked a little bit about this last week, some really high open rates in cattle right now and what could be attributing factors to that. And then just general questions that she might be getting. So looking forward to having Emily join us. Get your questions ready so you can call us on the Red Wing Shoes phone line at 701-293-9000 and can't wait to visit with you all in just a few moments. Don't go away.
Livestock market is mixed with feeders firmly higher. For the American Ag Network, I'm Richard Risvet with this market update. Live cattle futures have slowly pulled back from gains seen over the previous trading sessions as limited end-of-the-week trade volume is seen today. Markets will be closed on Monday. The focus across the entire livestock market, and especially the live cattle futures, is on end-of-week profit-taking following the firm gains in the last couple of trading sessions. Cash cattle trade does remain at a standstill despite limited trades reported in the north yesterday afternoon. Another round of winter weather is blowing through northern cattle country. That will be dumping additional snow and bringing about extreme colder temperatures. This has taken the emphasis off of selling cattle in some areas and put more focus on maintaining animal health. Asking prices do remain at $275 and higher dressed and $174 and higher live basis. Deals done yesterday are reported at $272 to $275 per hundredweight. Box beef prices are higher. Choice up $369 and select up $208 with a movement of 72 loads. Lean hog futures, they're adjusting prices lower with limited new information available to the futures complex that traders are willing to trade on. Now, the majority of the market pressure seen today has been focused on position adjustments and profit-taking opportunities following the $7 per hundredweight rally in the last week. This has moved nearby lean hog futures from contract lows to nearly 2-month highs. With markets being closed on Monday, limited volume has been seen today and could limit any overall trade activity through the rest of the day. We'll get a look at the livestock numbers next. You're listening to the American Ag Network.
Every day, our brave military men and women, along with their families, make tremendous sacrifices for our freedom. Patriotic Hearts, a nonprofit organization, is dedicated to supporting these heroes and their families in their times of need. By donating your unwanted car to Patriotic Hearts, you'll be supporting job transition and job fair programs, veteran entrepreneurship, counseling, and retreats for combat veterans and their spouses. Call 800-560-3870. You'll receive a tax deduction, and we'll arrange a free pickup at your convenience. Imagine the difference you can make in the lives of those who have given so much for our country. Your car donation will directly impact military families, veterans, providing them with the support they desperately need. Call 800-560-3870. You can become a part of something bigger. Join us in our mission to uplift and honor our military community. Call 800-560-3870 to donate your unwanted card.
Look at the livestock numbers. Live cattle February up 15 at 171.95. April up 2 pennies at 174.60. June up 7 at 172.05. And August live cattle, they're up 2 pennies at 172.42. Feeders January up 102 at 227.30. March up 122 at 228.62. Lean hogs February down a dime at 72.50. April down 2 dimes at 78.85. And the May lean hogs, they're down 3 dimes at 84.45. For the American Ag Network, I'm Richard Ristvet.
Weather and Ag in Focus on WDAY Radio.
And welcome back to Weather and Ag in Focus. Thanks for rejoining us. It is 1:20 on this finally Friday afternoon. Thanks for joining us again. If you want to be a part of the conversation coming up, feel free to give us a call on our Red Wing Shoes phone line. That's 701-293-9000. Emails to the program, weather or ag at flagfamily.com. And we got Dr. Emily Fox coming up in the program here in just a couple of moments. But Bridgette, this is something we wanted to mention, that message I sent you during the break.
We can. And basically what your message said was that there was a comment from someone, and it was not on our page. It was elsewhere on social media.
It was on one of our YouTube stream from yesterday when we had
I see.
Emily on.
Yep, Emily on. And the mention was that dairy farming is cruel because it's the separation of a mother from a calf, and they feel emotional pain from that. To be honest, I don't agree with that for a lot of reasons. And I think that's something that, as humans, we make a lot of assumptions. The world is not a Disney movie. If that were the case, we wouldn't have the coyotes eating the baby calves and the lambs and that type of thing either. But that does happen. And cows and calves, oftentimes dairy cows aren't necessarily the world's greatest moms. They kick their calves off, even if you were to leave them out there, because they realize that there's other things that they can be doing, and they need more milking than a calf can do just by nursing. So I don't necessarily agree with that. And honestly, if someone wanted to have that conversation with me, I'd be more than happy. But I'm also not going to address you if you're just going to use an anonymous name. If we'd like to have a conversation where we're both going to be open-minded, then we'll be true and factual. How's that?
Right on. I like it, Bridgette, and thanks for addressing that little comment. I always like trying to
stir the pot.
No, not necessarily stir the pot. I mean, I love doing that too, but just the educating part about it, because there's such a big disconnect when it comes to agriculture and urban and this and that, and don't eat beef or you're destroying the planet. That just needs to lessen, is what needs to do.
I love the education portion too, and that's why we have great guests like Dr. Emily Fox. She is a veterinarian with the Ashely Veterinary Clinic in Ashely, North Dakota, and I am so glad she's able to join us, because one of the things we want to talk about is animal care, particularly right now because it got cold out. So,
yes.
Emily, it's so good to see you. How are you today?
Nice to see you. Good. How are you?
We are fabulous. Okay, it got cold. What should people be doing? Because we know that producers take the best care of their livestock in situations like this. What are some of the steps that they're taking to make sure that bad things don't happen?
So first of all, since I didn't grow up in a farming family, I used to see cattle outside or animals outside in the cold, and I used to immediately have this reaction of someone ought to bring them inside. And I will say, just to kind of combat that, being more educated now and having more experience now, some of the worst things that I've ever seen as a veterinarian have been from animals being shoved too many inside of something with poor ventilation. So inside is not automatically the answer. I've actually seen some really terrible pneumonias. You know, if you open a barn and you've got everything in there and there's just a thick, dense, wet fog, that's a problem. And I've seen
Sounds
tremendous
yummy.
respiratory issues from that. These animals are pretty well adapted, fortunately, to being outside in cold weather.
Hmm.
And the best thing that we can do is try to support their biology instead of treating them just like little humans. So instead of trying to put them inside where you can have a lot of problems, although you should provide shelter if you can, sometimes the best thing to do is try to support their biology. So making sure, first of all, before you come into really cold weather, that these animals have adequate nutrition, that they're in an appropriate body condition, that you're taking appropriate care of older animals that you've maybe sorted off. If you have a lot of first calf heifers that are getting pushed out, that you make sure that every animal has good food and water access. The biggest issue in the cold to me is water fountains. Water fountains freezing over, that's a huge issue. And sometimes if they turn back on, you can see subsequent salt poisoning. So I think it's really important to remember that it's adequate water is your first and foremost. And then, of course, making sure they have good feedstuffs. I do try to feed better hay to our cows when it's like this than I would say if the weather was nice. And for me, the big thing is fermentation. So most animals that are herbivores have some degree of microbial fermentation in their stomachs, meaning cows, horses, they in some way ferment the things they eat. They have their own microbes that break it down for them. The cool thing about the microbes is they produce some heat. So by keeping foodstuffs in front of your animals, not only are you making sure they have enough food to get through their calorie deficit from the cold, but you're also helping them produce body heat. So I say adequate feedstuffs, adequate water, making sure your water tanks are open, making sure they have shelter or at the very least windbreak if it's really windy. But the main thing to me is keeping those tanks open. And if you have a power outage like we did here a couple weeks ago, thank goodness that happened before the weather got this cold, because that could have been a really serious combination.
Oh, yeah. Oh, huge disaster could have happened with that. Yeah. Boy, that is such a good point. And I love that you started out by giving your personal experience, because often we get asked, well, I saw snow on the cattle. Aren't they cold? But realistically, like you said, they're really garnered and ready for this. They know what to do in the cold weather.
Yeah, their hair actually raises up and keeps the snow off their back. I would actually say a cold rain, especially, horses too, the same thing. A cold rain actually seems to chill them more than snow itself, because when that rain penetrates their hide and their hide gets wet, yes, that is more like having wet skin. But when you have layers and layers of hair, that they call it piloerection, and it's when your hair can kind of stand up, that actually is an adaptation designed to bring the snow and the wetness off of the back of the animal. So snow actually, if it doesn't get that wet, heavy snow that we get when it's just barely freezing, this kind of really cold snow usually just sits on top of them, but doesn't really make them that much colder.
And Emily, is there a point where, all right, it's just too cold for them to be out there? Like even their skin, their hair, fur, this is not a good fit. They've got to get inside. Is it like 50 below wind chills, 60 below wind chills, or there's really no set temperature or wind chill?
There's no set parameter, and a lot of that would depend on kind of some of the other factors, like what their body condition was going into it. For example, if I have a really old cow who's really thin right now, she might not be well adapted for a negative 10-degree day, and that might be enough to cause her serious harm or death. Whereas your average good fat cow in good condition could very easily withstand that. Some of that is breed dependent. There's certain breeds that you'll see in this part of the country that you don't see down south for a reason, and vice versa. You don't see a lot of Brahma type crosses and eared cattle up here because those are your heat tolerant breeds. Certainly I wouldn't expect them to handle it, but they can handle some pretty cold temperatures. The bigger issue is usually if we get enough snow and enough wind that they become disoriented and they can't find their feed or their water. It's not usually a function of the cold. It's more a function of all the other things before the cold. I haven't personally seen cold where I think the cold itself on its own is causing harm and or death. I've definitely seen my cows look cold though. And I think windbreak helps them more than anything. They really go wherever the wind isn't.
Right.
Mm-hmm. What about sheep, Emily? When we're talking about beef animals a lot, or dairy cows, how do sheep handle this? Because they haven't been shorn yet, so they look like they're carrying around a pretty good coat.
Sheep, it really depends again on their condition, and it's really hard to body condition score sheep. I'm definitely not the sheep expert here. We have Dr. Megan. She's much more of a sheep expert than I am. Sheep can withstand a lot if they're in good condition, but I think a lot of people, because they have that wool on, overestimate the body condition of their sheep, and their sheep are actually a lot thinner than they think they are. The other problem with sheep is that they tend to get these resistant parasites, so a lot of sheep are actually a little bit anemic, and people don't realize. It just depends on the sheep. The hardest thing is, a lot of people want to lamb, earlier in the year for these Easter lambs, and so you end up with a lot of people lambing in very cold conditions. And I have seen some issues with that, where you're lambing in this time of the year or February, and it's very cold for the lambs. And you have to be really, really careful about the structure of your barn so that it allows adequate ventilation for the mothers, but also allows you to get enough heat on those lambs.
Right. Well, Emily, we're at the bottom of the hour, so we have to pay some bills here. If you have any questions for Emily, give us a call on a Red Wing Shoes hotline, 701-293-9000. Again, that's 701-293-9000. We'll be back with Emily here right after the break.
The next Coffee Club with Janae and Ronnie.
Have a great weekend. We'll be back 8:30 Monday morning, where we feature another amazing small business, Janae and Ronnie's categories, and we'll find out if it's going to warm up with meteorologist Justin Storm.
Yeah, have a great weekend. And, of course, all kinds of fun stuff coming up next week on the Coffee Club. So grab your cup, get some hot cocoa or coffee, and come join us.
The Coffee Club, weekdays 8:30 to 11 on AM 970 and 93.1 FM WDAY.
Hello from the WDAY News Center. I'm Ty Schoenert with your news update. Fargo Public Schools gathering feedback on a first draft of a plan that would look to build 6 new schools, update some, and consolidate others, estimated at $600 million in costs.
Some of our schools are at capacity or very close to that, but then we have some schools that we are referring to as underutilized, meaning in some schools, almost 50% of what the capacity could be is there.
School Board President Melissa Birkeland says one aspect of the plan looking to equalize educational outcomes across the district. A teen convicted of a deadly shooting in Bismarck last summer sentenced to life in prison. Jesse Taylor Jr., 16 at the time, shot and killed 28-year-old Maurice Thundershield at a motel. Taylor charged as an adult. He claimed the shooting was in self-defense. Police investigating after 2 officers at the Candiota County Law Enforcement Center in Minnesota had an unknown substance ignite and injure them. The deputies testing a powder they believed was a drug when it exploded. They were taken to a hospital, treated for injuries, and later released. And North Dakota has a new commissioner for the Department of Health and Human Services. Governor Doug Burgum announcing the appointment of Wayne Salter. Salter's a former deputy executive commissioner for Texas Health and Human Services. He'll take his position in Bismarck on January 22nd. I'm Ty Schoenert with WDAYRadioNow.com. First with the news when you need to know.
Patrick was way behind on his IRS taxes.
I was in way over my head. The total amount ended up being somewhere just over $30,000. $30,000.
Then the IRS came to collect.
Started getting letter after letter. A lien had been filed against me. They were going to basically hang me completely out to dry.
He had to do something.
That's when I reached out to Optima Tax Relief.
Patrick's life quickly got a lot easier.
It was very easy. Pretty much hands off, They picked up the ball and ran with it.
And how'd it go?
I couldn't believe it. I had to ask 2 or 3 times. I saved an incredible amount of money.
How does Patrick feel about Optima?
Couldn't be happier. They definitely helped me. Optima Tax Relief, the best place to call. They're the best in the business.
Do what Patrick did and call Optima Tax Relief for a free consultation. Call 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460.
Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Just 3 words tell you everything you need to know. They tell you why we employ more than 2,000 workers at our factory in Virginia Beach, and why over 10,000 local steel dealers are putting battery power in the hands of Americans. Just 3 words. Made in America. Real steel. Find yours at steelusa.com. The majority of steel products sold in America are made in America of U.S. and foreign materials. Batteries and chargers are sourced internationally.
This is Weather and Ag in Focus with Bridgette Readel, Justin Storm, and Dean Wysocki.
And welcome back to Weather and Ag in Focus, 1:34 in the afternoon on this Friday, January 12th. And it's finally feeling like January out there. Joining us today is Dr. Emily Fox. Want to give a big thank you to Dr. Fox for joining us once again. Always a fan favorite here on Weather and Ag in Focus, isn't she? No doubt. And we've got a caller on line one. I think he's got a question for Emily. Eric, you're on Weather and Ag in Focus. What's your question?
Say we have goats, and we've lost 4 goats now in the last 2 weeks, and we can't figure out why we're losing them.
Okay. So if this was a call I received at my office, so if you had called your vet, I don't know what you've gone through yet. The first thing I would want to do is figure out history on the animals that we're losing. You know, how old are they? When they die, are these sudden deaths? Are they deaths that we're seeing in any particular age group? Say you have a whole bunch of different aged animals. Are they associated with any particular body condition?
No, they're different ages, and it's almost, I want to say, like a respiratory thing.
Mm-hmm. Have you had any necropsies done? Any animal autopsies?
No.
That's where I
We
would
have
start
not
if
yet.
this was my investigation. If this was my investigation, if you called me, the first place I would probably start is I'd like to do some necropsies. You know, we think it's primary respiratory, but the best thing to do is to do a postmortem examination and actually cut into these dead animals and see, do we have lesions on the lungs? Do we see anything on the lungs? Do we see any gastrointestinal lesions as well? If we find things on the lungs, I would personally recommend sending them out for at least for PCR testing, for polymerase chain reaction testing, to see what pathogen we might have. There's a lot of different things that can cause pneumonias in goats. The other thing I would consider, if you're looking at your other animals, is if you're seeing any respiratory in live animals, you could start sending out some nasal swabs, maybe see what you have floating around. And I would also, if you don't FAMACHA score your animals, if you don't do anemia scoring, I would highly recommend it. A lot of the time, if you're seeing bacterial pneumonias, and if they're commensals, meaning if they're bacteria that are normally floating around in the environment, and you're seeing those kind of infections in these animals, and that's what you get back, you'd want to know if there was some other thing that was dragging them down. And in sheep and goats in particular, in the northern Midwest, we see a lot of drug resistant and parasiticide resistant bugs, particularly Homunculus contortus, the barber pole worm. If you have resistant barber pole worms, your animals would be pretty anemic. So I'd look at your deworming schedule. Were they dewormed recently?
They were about a year ago.
Because a lot can happen within a year, and that would definitely be something I'd be looking at as well. And then I'd look at their body condition before they got sick. I'd look at your feed and mineral program, and I'd certainly start a pretty regular conversation with your vet. I don't know what area you're in particular, but I would recommend trying to find somebody who has some experience with small ruminants. I do some work with small ruminants. One of our other associates here, Dr. Thomas, actually grew up raising sheep and goats in a more competitive setting and feels pretty comfortable doing that. So she does quite a bit of consulting work on that as well. And certainly if there is anything we can do, if we're not too far from you, please give my office a call, and maybe we could set something up to see if we could look into it a little further for you.
All right, great. Thank you very much.
And Emily,
have a wonderful day.
And Emily, what is your office number in case we have some other listeners that may be wanting to contact you?
Sure. So I am at the Ashely Veterinary Clinic in Ashely, North Dakota. Our number is 701-288-3234.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Okay.
And I got a question for you, and I'm actually going to play a little clip it, because this was one of our ag topics from, I think it was last year, and this just so happens to be perfect timing because we're kind of falling into a situation where this might end up playing out. Freezing my balls off right now, and this kind of goes into the ag topic of infertile bulls, because it's
nice
been so cold.
Okay, all those days back in the cold part of the winter, getting down to minus 20, even down to minus 60, well, bulls have extremities. That frostbite on that particular extremity can actually affect sperm count, and so later on when you turn the bulls out with your cows, you don't get calves, right? Because that just didn't work so well.
They need to make little stocking caps for them.
Oh, man, wow.
Get your knitting needles out.
So how big of an issue is this? Does it often occur, and what do you do to help lessen that possibility for bull owners? even
it's
other
a
animals.
huge problem.
Really?
It's a huge problem. And unfortunately, you can only do so much unless you bring every bull inside. I had a client one time, they got a bunch of shelters ready, they bedded everything was great, and then the wind switched direction and they ended up with a bunch of frozen scrotums anyhow. It's really hard. One thing you can do is bedding well and making sure animals have enough room that at least when they lay down, they're not gonna, because a lot of the time when they get frostbite is when they lay down and they put their when they put their testes against the cold ground. Sometimes the frostbite that we see is mostly just to the scrotal sac and it's mostly dermal. A lot of those animals will come out of it. But sometimes we also see actual damage to the testicles, and then there's not really, a lot of the time those bulls won't come out of it, particularly the ones that I've seen that are the worst. They'll get frostbite, they'll swell up really big, and then they'll start to atrophy and get smaller. And then some people will keep them thinking they're going to get better, and then you go to test them in the spring and you grab them, and a testicle should be pretty springy in texture. Sorry, I didn't think I'd talk about the texture of testicles today. But they should feel really firm. It should feel more like the muscle on your arm. And if they're flabby and soft, that's not a good sign. And certainly if you're looking at your own bulls and you say, oh, they got really big, now they look better though. They may not be better. They may actually just be atrophied, and they may be, if they feel really soft to the touch, a lot of the time those bulls won't come out of it. And there's really not much we can do at that point. And I have seen some very expensive bulls injured in that way. I've seen some very nice, pet bulls that have been injured in that way, and there's really not much you can do. But bedding well and making sure they have enough places to lay down with good bedding, at least then when they lay down on the frozen ground, they'll be laying down maybe not right against something that's going to freeze.
So this could end up being, it could be a huge financial loss to some ranchers if this happens.
Yeah,
obviously.
Well, especially if you just sell genetics.
Yeah.
Sell the sperm.
Oh yeah, it could be a major issue. It definitely can be a pretty big issue. Hopefully you just get, those little scabs on the bottom of their scrotal sac. You see that a lot, and those usually turn out fine. But like I said, I definitely have seen some pretty major things, and it could, you get, if you look at the price of bulls, I'm looking at buying a bull right now, and I'm looking at the price of bulls. I mean, even if you buy average price bulls, yeah, if you have 5 or 6 bulls that, have something happen to them, that could be $100,000 easy.
Right. So folks out in Montana, Western North Dakota, South Dakota, even Central North Dakota, they're probably a little nervous about these dangerous wind chills and spots below 60, below zero.
I think giving windbreak is really important, especially if you live in the Dakotas. Like I said, shelter over your head is important, but it's a little bit more of a human convention. But at the very least, a windbreak. And you see animals flock to windbreak, just easily. It's part of their behavior. And I think it's even with natural windbreaks when you look at animals like bison out in Yellowstone. And so I think we underestimate the value of windbreak. And you can get portable windbreak panels. I have them at home. Those are really nice to have, but windbreak's super important, and having enough room behind that windbreak that most of your animals can get back there. I think sometimes we think, oh yeah, I've got some of that, that's enough. But then you start looking and you realize, yeah, but you have a lot of cows too, or that was enough 20 years ago, but you have double the number of cows now. So I think you have to consider your size of your operation and just make sure that you're giving animals enough space.
So Emily, I've got a couple questions here that I have been getting from people, and we might not get to all of them today. So good news, you'll be back. One was we are seeing some fairly high open rates, which if you're pregnancy testing your cattle right now, open rates mean you're finding that whether through artificial insemination or use of a bull, that cow's not pregnant. Any factors that are lending to those high open rates right now that you've seen, or do you feel that you're not seeing a high percentage of open rates versus other years?
Well, I haven't been preg checking much lately because unfortunately I had to have surgery on one of my wrists. It's my own fault. I got in a little bit of an accident. But I would say overall, we've seen a little bit higher open rate this year. I don't think it's been terrible in comparison to other years, but we have definitely had some places it's terrible. But in general, when I see too high of an open rate, I like to go through a lot of different factors. For one thing, the most common thing I see is if the cattle came into the breeding season too thin, particularly if you're seeing a lot of opens in like your second and third calvers, if they're not breeding back, I would really look at nutrition and see if you might be not where they should be body condition wise. Because sometimes even by the time we go to pred check them, yeah, they look good, but then you realize what they looked when they were getting bred, and they really weren't heavy enough. Other things that you could consider, there certainly are plenty of infectious diseases that can cause a high open rate. North Dakota has very strict trick laws. We don't see a lot of trichomoniasis here. However, it is a pretty serious disease. And it kind of depends on if you're seeing opens or if you're seeing, like, if you think you have early term abortions or late term abortions. You could also have bulls that become transiently infertile in the pasture. I think people grossly underestimate the impact of things like pink eye and foot rot on fertility, but I do think they cause a fair amount of transient infertility, meaning the bulls get better, but there's this gap in your breeding window where nothing got bred because the bull either wasn't interested in breeding or because he had a high fever associated with one of those things, and it spoiled a batch of semen, and therefore it took him a while to regenerate decent cells to breed cows again. And so I do think that those things are grossly underestimated in their impact. So bulls, a lot of it, the first thing I try to get to the bottom of is, did we lose pregnancies, or are we, or do we have a lot of animals that aren't getting bred? And that can be very hard to get to the bottom of. There are some things like leptospirosis that can cause infertility in cows. I would really be, if I'm seeing a high open rate, I would be trying to go back and figure out what trimester should they be in, and that would really change what I thought the culprits could be. If you're seeing things like late-term abortions, sometimes I see those with bacterial or mycotoxic things, so things in the feed or on the ground. Those would be very different causes than some of the early term losses or perhaps just open rates, which are more likely to be fertility issues as opposed to issues holding a pregnancy.
So I feel like Emily's our official large animal vet for Weather and Ag in Focus, that we can call her up and get all sorts of things from her. Some of the questions that I've got, I'm going to need to hold over. They have to do with horses, and we are just about out of time today, Emily. So you and I are going to talk about another day where we'll visit. But for folks who are listening, who want to visit with you directly, just like our caller Eric did when it came to what's happening with his goats, how can they reach you, and any specialties you want to highlight for your clinic?
Sure. So our clinic does a lot of work on, well, we do a lot of herd health. We do a little bit of, Megan does a little bit of sheep and goat. We kind of do everything because of the area that we're in. We're pretty into fetal age and sex ultrasound. That's probably our biggest specialty within our clinic. So we do head measurement aging, and that takes up a lot of our time. I'd say we also do a lot of bull fertility. My primary interests, I've gotten very into autogenous vaccine development, stuff like mycoplasma vaccines and pink eye vaccines, and kind of looking at what causative agents are. I really like doing consultation work, and I really enjoy doing whole herd health, so trying to come up with protocols for testing, surveillance testing. I think all those things are really the forefront of kind of modern medicine going forward. But I really like whole herd type issues and epidemiology. And we can be reached, Ashely Veterinary Clinic. We have a phone number here, 701-288-3234. We do have a Facebook page as well. And that's where you can usually find me.
Oh, thank you so much for joining us, Emily. We will have more questions for you again very soon.
Really appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thanks so much. Folks, don't go anywhere. We want to touch on that weather because, as the guy said, it's cold out there. And we'll talk about any other ag headlines. We'll be right back.
Dr. Jeff and the team at Designer Smiles provide same-day crowns. That's right. No more hassles with multiple appointments to fit your crowns, and they beautifully blend your dental crown with your teeth. Dr. Jeff uses the newest technology available to provide you with quick and accurate same-day crowns, so you don't have to spend any more time in dentist chairs than you need to. Same-day crowns will help you achieve a fuller, healthier smile. Find out more at FargoDentalCare.com, FargoDentalCare.com, or call for a consult today, 298-9400.
With Jiffy Lube Multicare, it's our job to make car care make sense. With personalized service reviews that swap the car talk for straight talk, so you know what your car is telling you and what to do about it. Where highly trained service technicians have your back, helping you take care of the small stuff before it becomes big stuff. Plus a full range of services from Pennzoil oil changes to tires, brakes, batteries, and more. We've got what your car needs, so you're ready for whatever's next. Putting you in the driver's seat of car care, that's a job for Jiffy.
Jiffy Lube, 620 Dakota Avenue, Wapaton.
Flag Family Media Fieldstone Group has a golden opportunity for a sales professional to join our dynamic team. Work with high-energy individuals to expand our client base and enhance current client relationships. Enjoy flexibility, competitive earnings, robust benefits, and a supportive family-owned environment. If you're a driven, competitive professional seeking both financial success and fun, send your resume to jobs@flagfamily.com. Be part of a company that values its team and its customers.
North Dakota and Minnesota produce 58% of all edible dry beans produced in the U.S. Good reason to attend the North Harvest Bean Growers Association Bean Day, Friday, January 19th at the Fargo Holiday Inn. Hear experts covering subjects to help keep our producers lead U.S. edible dry bean production. See the latest products and information from exhibitors serving the industry. Free registration at 8:30. Program starts at 9:15. The North Harvest Bean Growers Bean Day, Friday, January 19th at the Fargo Holiday Inn. Complimentary lunch will be served.
Weather and Ag in Focus on WDAY Radio.
Welcome back to Weather and Ag in Focus. Thanks for rejoining us. 1:50 on this Friday afternoon. We got a rundown on the forecast coming up here in just a moment, but a quick check on your currents. 2 degrees. Northwest winds are at 20 miles an hour. Makes it feel closer to 20 below zero. Visibility being reported at about 5 miles. Yes, it's a pink cup. Get over it. The other one says Mommy's sippy cup on it. For those watching the live streams, Jay, who's coming up next year in about 15 minutes, is holding up my cup.
That's adorable.
Isn't it?
Stanley, so we got one of these.
Is it?
It's a Yeti.
It's a baby Yeti.
Oh, man.
A baby Yeti.
Baby Yeti. Well, a few ag topics as well to get to. If you want to sneak in on the program here quick, give us a call on the Red Wing Shoes phone line. That's 701-293-9000. And should we do an ag topic, or do we want to run down the forecast really quick?
Just do a couple ag topics, yeah.
All right.
It's cold out.
It is. There's your forecast.
That's the forecast. Okay, if you are anywhere near Dunn County, North Dakota, which is out north of Dickinson, and you would like to get back into Dunn County, particularly because you want to be part of a farm and ranch operation, the county is actually offering grants to young farmers between the ages of 18 and 40. That can be to help with the labor costs, to help you complete projects on the farm, trying to get folks to do as much as they can and supporting the farm economy within their county. You can apply for those grants. The qualifications are, again, those ages are 18 to 40. You must live in Dunn County and have an ownership interest in the operation. So, that's a move being made locally to get people back into the farm. And one other way to try to do something like that is North Dakota Farm Bureau, and I've noticed that South Dakota Farm Bureau is doing the same. They currently have applications open for high school scholarships. They want to see folks applying to get rolling in their higher education. These are open to high school seniors and also undergraduates in schools. You can go to their websites for North Dakota or South Dakota Farm Bureau, fill out the applications. There are some requirements there as far as grades, participation in Farm Bureau. There's one in North Dakota that's strictly going to be based on the community service that folks do as part of Farm Bureau. So lots of opportunities, because we all know the cost of higher education is higher and higher. So why not take advantage of all those scholarships whenever you might get the chance? Those are just two things that are going on right now.
Right on.
And additionally, food labels. Okay, how often do you open the fridge, look at the date, and say, well, that can't be good, and just toss it out?
Often.
But do you check? Often. Okay.
Well, mainly with dairy items.
Dairy, yeah.
Yeah, mainly with dairy.
Yeah. And it varies, right? So like the milk, I'm going to look at the date. I'm going to take a sniff, probably take a sip, and realize that's good or bad. Yogurt, I think there's yogurt that's been here since like elementary school. Yogurt seems to last for ages and does pretty well. But 7% of U.S. food waste can be attributed to reading the expiration dates, even if it doesn't necessarily matter. See, the expiration or good by use dates really just talk about peak timing for that food product. So, for instance, if I look at a box of pasta like a spaghetti or a lasagna noodle, I'm pretty much going to ignore that date because it's going to be fine. Unless it looks pre-World War II, I'm probably going to cook it and use it. But you're right, when it comes to milk, other fresh goods such as raw meats, if you're not going to use it by that peak time frame, you're probably going to want to stick that in the freezer to be used at another time. Be sure to put it in a plastic bag or something like that to prevent freezer burn. But by all means, keep an eye on those things and trust your senses. You don't have to throw something away just because of the date. Likely, you still have an opportunity for it to be useful. So just keep an eye out.
Right on. And let's do a quick rundown on the forecast. We got some fun stuff on the way, like Wii Sports bowling, tennis. You ever get into boxing on there?
Oh, yeah.
You
Like the Mike Tyson punch-out?
Yeah.
Oh.
It was kind of a fun little thing.
Oh, yeah.
Ahead of its time.
All right. Well, cloudy, cold, windy, a few light snow flurries. We'll call them snow streamers out there this afternoon. Won't really add up to much, but it's raw. Wind chill right now about 20 below, and that's only going to get colder as we head throughout the upcoming weekend. We'll see light snow developing tonight, dropping down to about 5 below, a little colder off to our north and west. Wind chills about 25 to 30 below overnight tonight. And then snow continues on Saturday on and off throughout the day. It'll be light and very light and fluffy stuff too. So anything that falls is going to be blown around. Could pick up an inch or two out of that. And it's not the amount of snow we're getting, but you get up to 2 inches of snow and 35-mile-an-hour winds, that's going to cause some travel problem. And it's not just locally. This is throughout most of the states going to pick up some light snow. So if you have any traveling doing over the weekend, please keep up to date on the road conditions and make sure you have a winter weather survival kit packed in your car. We'll have wind chills this weekend between 25 and 40 below, with even colder readings out to our west. So that's dangerously cold wind chills. You don't want to get stuck out in this. It's just common sense. It's not record breaking. We've seen it before, but it's just we've been so spoiled this winter. We haven't seen anything like this. And again, yes, we will have some additional snow. We were talking, Justin and I, earlier. Do you think there will be any blizzard warnings issued? And keep in mind, blizzard warnings are issued for visibility. It doesn't matter if it's snowing or not. So areas that do pick up enough snow with these strong winds could have at least, well, at the minimum, severely reduced visibility, and could have up to blizzard conditions possible in parts of the area. So keep up to date on the forecast. If the roads say don't go, don't try and don't push it. Don't try and push it.
Don't be a big dummy.
Yeah, it's a cold, raw weekend, and again, we will have conditions kind of going downhill as we go throughout the weekend. So just keep it in mind. We gave you the heads up. Don't get out there and get stranded. It's the best advice we can give, right?
Well, come in
Plan ahead.
Well, come in here on Monday. First thing that's going to come out of my mouth as soon as this microphone turns hot is, "I told you so." I told you were going to go in the ditch.
Oh,
should have slowed down. Should have slowed down.
And this cold weather will stick with us through the 20th of the month. So a good 9 days here, 8-9 days of temperatures well below where they should be for this time of the year. But we do see warmer weather 21st and onward, so that's good.
Maybe something to look
That
forward
is
to.
excellent.
We got some comments over there in the YouTube box from Dirk talking about the my adorable cup. So thank you, Dirk. Appreciate that. And also sour cream hangs in there, but milk not so much in the refrigerator. We were talking about those labels and expiration date.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. My sour cream will last a long time. That is for sure.
And
now, speaking of dairy, this we missed the other day. We didn't get a chance to talk about it.
Really?
Minnesota lost 58 dairy farms in November. That was a big blow to their dairy sector. Now, 10 years ago, there were 4,000 dairy farms permitted in Minnesota. And it doesn't mean that you need a permit to be a dairy farm. It has much more to do with manure management, and that's why there are permits issued. Now, there's only a total of 1,825 as of December 1st. So big change in what's going on. It's not necessarily that dairy farmers are going bankrupt, although margins are razor tight for dairy farmers. But what you are seeing is retirements and folks who are selling and having herd liquidations. So the number of animals are staying the same, but the number of farms is definitely changing. More to come, of course, on that discussion as the week progresses, but don't go anywhere. The Jay Thomas Show is next. See y'all on Monday.